All right, so welcome back to week two. Um, I know it was a challenging week for some, less challenging for others, but until you dive in, you just don't know how all this is going to work. So I'm not adding a ton more this week. We're going to really problem solve and I think now things will make a lot more sense. So that's my goal for today. I will let you know I am traveling, and so I'm in a hotel. I think service is pretty good, but if we get any glitches, I'm going to ask you guys to turn your video off. I'll turn mine off just to make sure. But and I have upgraded my internet at home too, so I shouldn't have problems once I get back home. But so hopefully we won't have any issues, but just to give you that little warning there. And like normal, if you have questions, you'll have a chance to talk about your images. If you have questions, you can ask right at the time, or I'll pause at different times, or you can always use the chat room. So let's see, let's make sure I started. Yep, okay, so recording's all set. All right, so we are going to go through your images today. We're going to go a little bit further into Helicon Focus. I hope that additional recording was helpful for everyone since we had those glitches. Good, okay. And then we'll give you a new challenge today. And then through emails, I've received a few additional questions, so we'll certainly highlight those today too. So when it comes to the image feedback, if you can, try to tell us how many images you shot, and certainly point out any questions or concerns. Today, we're not talking about composition. Today, it's just the act of stacking and getting that to where we're comfortable with stacking. And then, if there's areas out of focus that concern you, we certainly will talk about that. That's really the highlight for today. So let me jump over to Lightroom here. And it looks like we get to start with Ken.
Oh, okay. This was taken in my backyard. I actually shot, I think, probably 200 images and picked 31 of them
Okay.
and stacked them in Helicon Focus. Then, after doing that, and I didn't have to do a lot of retouching in Helicon Focus because it was fairly stationary, but I did do a little enhancing of the light on the left-hand side of the flower, so it would bring up the red, so it would be a bit brighter. And I stopped the progression of slides after the little flower itself.
Okay. So when you shot the 200, it went all the way into the back of
Yes,
the larger part of the cactus?
yes.
Okay. Okay. And for full disclosure for everyone, at least I've seen on Instagram, Ken has done some other stacks. So you had prior knowledge of Helicon, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So just so people aren't thinking, oh my gosh, 200, just wanted to make sure we have a little disclosure there that Ken has done a little bit of this before.
Yes,
So.
and I don't want mine showing after his.
I'm with you, Nancy. I'm there with you, Nancy. This is amazing. I love all the detail of the tiny hairs and the fibers. Nice job, Ken. This is great.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I have a question. So you took 200 photos and picked the first 30 or a set of 30 in a row? How
I
did you do
started
that?
I started out with the whole thing out of focus and just a little bit, and then so I go through and pick the photos where the little yellow flower started becoming focus, and then continued to take 31 images till it just beyond the base of the flower itself.
So what were you focused on to start then, Ken? Did you start at the tip of the little flower there and then
Just when the little tip of the little bit out of focus, and then move the focus down from that.
Okay.
So it looks like you're saying you went from left to right, not front to back. What am I missing?
Well, it looks left to right there, but actually this is closer. The little yellow flower is the closest to us. So it's kind of catty corner.
Okay, so it's at an angle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And last week I briefly mentioned, but I didn't want to go too far and overwhelm. But I had shown when I showed like the focus peaking and how you start with where you think is in focus, but then if you back it off a little bit to make sure you just get to where it starts in focus. And then I had said, especially if you have highly magnified items, we will often start slightly out of focus, because some of these little tips, if you're not really zoomed in and really on top of it, you might not get it in focus. And there's nothing worse than stacking 31 images and finding one of these little tips is out of focus. So I didn't expect anyone to do that. Ken is an overachiever.
Sorry.
But that is something I was going to transition that concept to you as we progress through the class, once we get a good handle of just the focus. But to start off, yeah, so although it does look left to right, if you were to look at Ken's camera in relationship to the flower, this little point was closest to the lens. So
How come
then
did he mean mine? It looks a little bit out of focus, and you're saying you meant to do that? Those yellow little tips look out of focus to me. It starts becoming very sharp when you just get down to the pink.
they might not be quite as sharp here. Reminder, when you do send images to me, because we do the 2000
it.
pixels on the long edge, they're not always quite,
Okay.
I can't zoom in as much.
Okay.
But that certainly is acceptably
Okay.
sharp, I would say, yeah. And I really like how the background then is so soft, so it really helps to isolate your subject.
And are you shooting with a macro lens?
Yes, this is a 105 macro.
And how close are you to the red plant there?
This is probably close to a 1-to-1.
Okay.
Not far off it.
Okay, so very, very close.
It's a
then,
very
yeah.
tiny flower on a silver torch
Okay.
cactus.
It looked huge.
So Ken, did you go back into Lightroom then? You mentioned brightening the red part or the pink part a little bit more. Did you use a Lightroom technique on
Actually,
that?
with that one, after I got the TIFF back out of Helicon Focus, I took it into DxO Color Effects and did a little radial to brighten up the red. And I
Okay.
could have done it in Lightroom,
Okay.
make a mask and lighten it.
Yeah. Very nice image. Great example of, stacking way more than I thought many would do this first week. And especially, sharing the process of, grabbing the 200 first. And that is the exciting part about, the cameras. And if you're not sure, you can do way more than you need, because you just don't have to put all of them into Helicon. It will take a few minutes to cull through them in Lightroom, but once you figure out which ones you want, you can delete all the others and just send so many to Helicon. Excellent example, Ken. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Nice stuff.
And one more for Ken.
This is a picture of a side-by-side Mexican petunias. And again, this turned out to be 31 images. And there was a bit of wind movement, so I had to go into Helicon Focus to touch up and find the edge of the flower that I wanted to keep. And so I had to do that several times because I kept missing some ghosting. And then after I had finished it, and I also wanted to keep all the leaves out of focus. So there were some leaves that were in front of the flower. So I went into Helicon Focus and retouched them out.
And today I'm going to demo what all of that means with the retouching in Helicon. So, but for example, let me point out, so right up here at the top, this is what we would call a little bit of ghosting. So because of the movement, and then when Helicon stacks it, you get this kind of, almost like a haloing effect.
Yeah.
And so, but Helicon, I mean, in Lightroom, you could probably, well, I wouldn't use Lightroom. Photoshop, you could use a clone stamp to clean it up. But Helicon has a retouching feature that works really well. And so that's the one new thing I'm going to show you today, if you find that you had some of this in your images. And there was a few other images I was going to point out too. And so it is very easy to correct. And then actually I saw one other spot down here too.
It was
At
a
the
lot
bottom.
worse. It was a lot worse than that.
I'm
But yes, I
sure.
kept missing them.
Yeah. Shooting outdoors in the wind would not be an easy task. So I commend you for that. Love the light, and you know, they're just so sharp and crisp. Just beautiful petunias here.
Is that
So-
just sunlight on there?
Yes.
It's beautiful. Yeah, the detail with the veining on the petals, really pretty.
Yeah. And
Really nice.
Oh, it's
every
gorgeous.
every outer edge is just so tack sharp. Just gorgeous.
How does, in terms of the depth of what you want in focus, where did you start? And how do you get it to stop at the farthest piece of the flower and have the rest of it not in focus behind, blurred? Is that like picking 30 of the 200 like you did before? How'd you
Yes.
do that?
Same thing. I picked 31 out of about 200 pictures. And so then when the last of the flower was in focus, that's where I stopped the stack. So because of the shallow depth of field, everything behind it was then out of focus.
Right. Okay. So like it's generally the first 30 or 31. And then, okay. What interval did you use?
I used an interval of 4.
Okay.
And
Thank
I
you.
think I used an f-stop of 5.6.
Okay. And then, of course, if you did want the background more out of focus, well, he could have used an f-stop of 4. Technically, he could have used 2.8 with that lens, but he would have had to take at least twice as many photos that he would have stacked in Helicon.
Yes.
So you always have this trade-off, but with the image the way it stands here, because the flowers are so tack sharp, he did a little bit in Helicon the retouching to get more in the background out of focus, but technically he could use a mask and he could even kind of reduce some of the clarity or texture or something, and that would slightly soften that background more if he really wanted. I think it looks really nice the way it is. I think these petunias just jump off out of the frame here. They're so sharp and just great color.
I think it's beautiful. Amy, can I ask another question? Sorry.
Yeah. That's kind of what today's all about, to get us to where we're feeling more
Okay,
comfortable.
so if you're,
yeah.
if I'm using like 2.8 or 4.0 or something, and then the focus plane is going to be much narrower, and so is it together, or is the interval the piece that's deciding that, or is it a combination? How is that working?
That is a great question, and it gets very complicated because if you recall, the 3 things that determine depth of field are your f-stop, your focal length, and your distance to subject. So the closer you are,
Okay.
the smaller the interval would need to be when it comes to stacking. And
Right,
then if you change the f-stop, it could be that much smaller or that much bigger. So the intervals, when I first started doing stacking, I was actually doing it with what's called a cam ranger with my old Nikon DSLR. And I kept calling cam ranger, what does the interval mean? Is that like a measurement? And you can't measure it because there's too many variables involved. So it just comes down to, if you use a little bigger f-stop, you can use less intervals, less pictures. It can be a larger interval rather. If you're using a really shallow depth of field, 2.8, then you're going to want a smaller interval and more images. And then, of course, if you're really close, like macro 1:1, which this one's probably not macro 1:1, correct, Ken?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, because these are too large of flowers to be at 1:1.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
And
You're
where
welcome.
did you focus at?
Again, if in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see some green leaves that were actually they're in front of the flowers. So
Oh, they're
that's
in
where I
front.
start.
Okay.
That's where I started
Okay.
the focus.
Were you looking down at the flowers, Ken, or from the side? How are you
They're
looking?
from the side.
From the side, that's what I'm assuming. Okay.
And so did you remove those green leaves that were in front of it because it's not over the top of the purple?
What I did is in the retouch of Helicon Focus, I picked something that was blurred out because of
Okay.
the changing of the focus point.
Okay. And you're going to show us that?
That'll make more sense when we get to the retouching
Okay.
part. So, excellent job. And I don't recall what order they're in, so if you requested to not be after Ken, I'm sorry. Oh, and it's Pam.
Ah,
Pretty. That's good,
Yeah,
Pam.
pretty
oh,
flowers.
thanks.
Nice.
So,
Nice job. Good one.
And so you have, I threw
I've
both
done a
of
lot
them
of
in here,
flower-
Pam. So
Oh,
you can
sorry.
describe the difference.
Okay, both of these? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Right. So, I've never done the focus stacking. I've done a lot of flowers, but I've never done the focus stacking. So, what I figured out in my camera is that my camera makes a JPEG of all the stacks. And I was like, oh, that was really nice of the camera. And then the Helicon, I had a hard time finding the TIFF. I chose TIFF, which I realize now is a problem. I should be choosing DNG. And that what I figured out today, I figured out a lot by trial and error, is that when I go to Lightroom Classic, I can't denoise. I didn't need to denoise this one, but I can't denoise a TIFF. I can denoise a DNG. So is that correct,
And
Amy? That's what I was
yes.
figuring out.
Appreciate you saying that because honestly, the denoise feature is a little bit newer. So I knew you couldn't denoise, you had to denoise with RAWs and you couldn't denoise a TIFF, but I didn't realize you could still denoise the DNG after being in Helicon. So you helped me
Well,
recognize something new.
Google told me I could. I have not tried it yet.
You should be able to.
I can
Yeah,
confirm that I can't do it with a TIFF. So
No.
It
when
makes,
I,
yeah.
yeah. So this is a small flower. It's part of a bouquet, and I used an external
Light.
light
Light.
on it, and I only did 10 with interval of 4, and I don't remember if my f-stop, I think it was probably a 9 because I'm used to like 9 to 11 when I'm doing flowers. So I think that's what it was. And I was pretty pleased. Is this the JPEG or is this the TIFF?
Think it was, it's the JPEG, yeah.
Okay. So I was pretty pleased with the JPEG and I couldn't find the TIFF and I was doing it yesterday. So I said, oh, I'm good. Then today I found the TIFF. And now, of course, I'm going to have a green label on everything. You know, I will label it appropriately. So is this the TIFF? Oh, that's a JPEG.
The next one says from Helicon.
Ah, so that's
The
the
second
TIFF.
one says Helicon. So this one's the
As
one that
oppo-
your camera did.
Yep. And
So
then the
this is
next
camera,
one.
and this is Helicon.
Okay, and I went into Lightroom Classic and, you know, did some cropping and some adjustments. And I focused on the closest of the flower and I used 10. Anyway, I think that's about it. The things I learned today, you guys may have also learned them too, is that the battery dies pretty quickly. And when the battery got down to about a quarter to a third, it stopped doing the job. It
Really?
stopped, you know,
that's true.
I went up to 30 and then I realized that I had to change the battery. So that was another thing I learned. I had a lot of learning on
What camera
this.
did you shoot with?
I have a Canon R6 Mark II.
And then I have a question about the noise. If it's set to
Yes.
short shot, like it's a 1/60th of a second, why is there noise? Have to put it through a noise reduction.
Oh, it wasn't this flower. It was the next one, and I was lazy and I turned up the ISO and didn't use an external light source. So this one
Okay.
is actually the JPEG from the camera. And I was pretty pleased because I could make some adjustments. I don't like the color of the back. That's just my wall. but I felt like I was able to get that. This had 30, and the interval was 4. And I believe I had adjusted the f-stop down to 7, and the lighting in the room was a little better. I didn't use an external, but this is where I really moved my ISO up. I can't remember how high it was, but
Okay.
it was elevated. So when I did the TIFF, it looked terrible.
So
But this is the-
6,400 was
There
your
we go.
ISO.
Okay, there you
6,400,
go.
which is way out of what I usually use.
Yeah. You would
Yeah.
have
And
noise.
yeah, but this is the JPEG out of the camera without, I mean, I think all I did was maybe lighten it up a little bit, or maybe, I adjusted the tone, I think. But I was really just trying to see if I could get all of those petals in focus. What else did
Yeah.
I learn? I think that I need to listen to everything Amy says, not just some of it.
I wish my husband would say that to me.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
Anyway.
and I want to repeat, this week, it really was a big dive in. And so it's so exciting to still see really, really nice images. And the best part is that you're understanding the process. But, I love that you tried both aspects, Pam, using the in-camera as well as Helicon, so you can kind of start comparing, because sometimes the JPEG comes out and it's fine. Like I said last week, we had some of those JPEGs published in our book. And, so depending on what you're doing, obviously, if you shoot in RAW, you have a lot more flexibility for editing. And, whether it's a TIFF or a DNG as your
Right.
final stack versus the JPEG. But if you nail it on the first time with a JPEG, you can still do a lot with it. So overall, I think you did a great job when it comes to creating your stacks. Another person overachieving, doing a good 30 images. And
I'm an
getting that-
underachiever.
That's okay. That's okay.
Oh, hey, well, can I say one more thing? The reason I
Yeah.
did 30 is because I had was given a Christmas ornament. Family was in town and it was flat. So I laid it down and tried to get a photo from the front to the back to see like a ruler,
Yeah.
but and 10 didn't cut it. And
Okay.
so I changed 30, and 30 was better, but I didn't want it wasn't a great photo.
Yeah.
And so that's when I went to 30 for this flower. So
Okay.
that was the reason I went to 30. Anyway,
And
That's all
your
mine.
camera puts it together for you. You have that option
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the Canon has recently added that feature.
On the
And
R6.
Olympus
R5
had
doesn't
it.
do it.
The
Yeah,
R5 doesn't do it. It's mirrorless, right?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. I think it's just the newer
I think it's a second version of R6. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a Mark II.
And
Okay.
Yep.
and the R7 does it too, right, Carol?
Yeah, the R7 doesn't.
Yeah. And the Olympus has always had that feature. Let me just add.
Oh, wonderful.
Mm.
Well, the R5 burns battery really fast. So if they put that feature, you'd never get more than one shot.
Well, it
So one
certainly
thing I
used
just-
mine. Yep. Sorry.
One thing I want to comment, Pam's turned out and worked well when it came to like the F9, but you have to remember, because of using F9, first off, it could slow down the shutter speed. She had maybe auto ISO. So that's why the ISO went so high. But if you are slowing down the shutter speed, the slightest bit of wind or movement, it's not going to be quite as sharp of an image of your item. And then the other thing is she had really simple backgrounds. So that was great. If Ken had used F9, he would have had a lot more detail in the background, which that's not what you always want. So there's always these trade-offs to think through. So it worked really well with the F9 with Pam, but sometimes if you have a background, you don't want to do that, because that's the advantage of focus stacking. You can really isolate that detail of the subject. Great job, Pam. Really likes that you learned so much.
Thanks.
And you had some really successful images, especially as the first attempt.
Really pretty.
Ooh.
All right, Jerry.
Well, I really struggle with this assignment. I must have taken, I don't know how many different versions. I did learn, like Pam, that my Canon R6 Mark II does a composite, and you have to unclick that if you want to work through the assignment of the stacking. So I had to learn that part. But I just don't feel like it's quite as sharp as I wish it was. I was trying to focus on the lower petal of the lily with the little dots on it. But I'm not sure, even when I was done stacking, that I could see a difference in my final image from the first one. So I think I still have a lot of work to do on this one. I'm sorry.
Well, and I know sometimes when you, after stacking, you lose some of the metadata, so I can't always see what the shutter speed is. Do you
Yeah.
recall, well, first off, did you use an external light source?
No, I was just
Okay.
in my kitchen. Yeah. So
Okay.
that was hard too. Yeah.
Yeah. So had you had even a cell phone flashlight or a, a flashlight of some sort, a little bit stronger light, I think you would have seen more sharpness.
So would you have put the light directly on the lily or from the side light, or how would you have used that?
I mean, I would have played
the
around to see where the best light would look.
Okay.
And then if I had an option to even diffuse the light, or, after Sunday, Jerry, you could use flash.
Great. I'll be even more confused.
Yes. She's in my
God.
flash class.
No. Oh no. Oh no. Yes.
Yeah, or we'll even talk about some other consistent lighting things, but and that just a little bit more light would contribute to that sharpness. That would
Okay.
make a big difference.
Jerry,
But-
I used just a flashlight from the kitchen, just a small flashlight on my
Okay.
first photo.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind for next time. Thank you, Pam. I appreciate all the help. You bet.
And so how many images, did you stack?
I'm with Nancy. I went with 10.
We
Okay.
follow directions, don't we?
Yes, that's right. Thank you. Yes, and I think my interval was 4. I may have used 3 on one of the attempts or another, but I'm pretty sure it was 4. Yeah.
Okay.
So would more, again, in this situation, adding the light, would a different interval or more images have helped, do you think?
I think adding the light would have just given this sharpness.
Okay.
And I like where some of the flowers in the background are out of focus, because otherwise the image would be too busy.
Mm.
So I think the number and the interval worked great. If the interval was off, which I'll be able to show you, I think I have an image that I can show you. If you don't have the intervals right, you'll see little blurred areas kind of in between slice to slice to slice. And it seems like I may have seen one in one of the groups that I was going to point out. But one thing that works really well is you do have, acceptable sharpness on the lily, but again, that light would have made it really pop and be crisp. And so the number that you chose and the intervals worked well. Yeah, I think really the light is the big thing that would have made a difference here.
Okay.
And do you know where you focused on that flower?
She had said down here on this petal.
With
Okay.
the little dots there, yeah, trying to.
Yeah.
And that's because that was the closest to your lens,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And this image, which there's a lot in focus, so I think it looks really, I love these chrysanthemums. There is a
Yeah.
little bit more light, so everything's a bit sharper. Looks really well. The problem is this chrysanthemum looks like it's closer to the camera, but you didn't start your stack there. And
Right.
based on its position in the frame, it's just a bit distracting. So again, I'm not wanting to get way into composition today.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I
But
wasn't-
otherwise, you've got really nice sharpness over here in the white, even this edge of the rose.
Yep.
And so the technique was done well. You have nice light here. It's just trying to figure out exactly what your subject is going to be and making sure you have that monopolized
Gotcha.
in the frame.
Okay.
So was this one 10 as well?
I believe so, yes. After
Did really good.
157 attempts of different subjects all over the house. Yes. Okay.
So am I hearing you guys didn't have much free time this week?
Exactly.
Well, I think you're definitely onto a great start. And you know, again, great difference in lighting here. What was the difference in lighting? Did you have it under a light in your kitchen or something, or?
I
Maybe
probably,
a
yeah,
window.
yeah, I
Window.
probably just moved it under the light, you know, or
Okay.
rearranged the flowers a little bit, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Made a big difference there, but I think you definitely got the technique going. I look forward to seeing future stuff. Great job.
Yeah, keep going.
All right, and then actually we're going to go to Carol's next because I know some people with Helicon. It's been so long since I installed it. I know a few people commented that they got the message that they had to download the DNG converter, and it took a very long time.
That was
And I apologize for that, but again, it's been a while since I had to do that, and so. Although I didn't think it was necessary, we now see the benefit for that, because if you do save it as DNG and put it back to Lightroom, then you can do the denoise. But so Carol, I said, send me your RAWs so I'll use them to stack here in just a second. So
Okay.
let me just go ahead and do that real quick with her images. And if you want to talk at all about them, Carol.
Well, I'm the
step this out.
kindergartner in the college class, so let's be clear here. So,
We all
So
are, except
That's
Ken.
just Ken. Don't
Ken's a
feel bad. That's
professor.
just Ken.
Professor Ken.
yeah,
Yes.
so I have always just shot in JPEG, so I've decided, a while back I needed to start learning to shoot in RAW. So this was my first attempt at that. So when I went to Helicon, and it asked about the DNG, I kind of went, what? So we'll have to figure that out. So I did the 10 images and I sent them, Amy said send them and we would stack them here. So that's what they are. And then I've got one, my camera, the R7, also does the JPEG composite. So that's what the last one is.
Okay, so real quick, I also wanted to point out before I put them into Helicon, if you notice
That's the B.
in my grid mode, we can see this is the one that was done in Helicon because I can see the file name. So
Yep.
if you can't see this view in your Lightroom, I just wanted to point out, if you drop down to view and choose grid view style, if you say show extras, then you can see the file names up there. I'll turn it back on again. So grid view style, show extras. So there's a lot of, and in addition to the file names up top, you also get these little icons which tell you different things. It can tell you if you did keywording, if you used exposure changes. So there's a lot of great information that comes from that. But I just realized not everyone's going to have their screen set up the same as mine. And in case that was a concern or an issue, I wanted to show it to you. So it looks like these are all oh no, here's the JPEG. So I'm going to grab all of them and then I'm going to remove the JPEG from in camera. And then I'm going to export to Helicon and well, we'll just do the DNG this time. So we can test Pam's Google. Oh,
Yes.
and I don't have the DNG installer, so we're not.
And so you got the same message I did.
Yeah, so let me just do it as a TIFF, just so I know I can get it to stack, because I stacked it earlier. But if we have time, I'll play again with that.
I got that message too, Carol, about the DNG converter. So
Yeah, so I'm going to figure that out.
But I thought,
Yeah.
Amy, you said last week that you like to do it in TIFF.
I do normally do it in TIFF, but you know, again, Lightroom changed some of their denoise features in the last 6 months. So I wasn't aware how the DNG would make the difference. It makes complete sense now that Pam brings that up. But okay, so as a quick review, you know, I'm going to use method A or B. I'm going to just start with B, hit render. It goes down through all of them, creates the image. And look
Ooh,
at
look
this
at that.
beautiful tack sharp flower. Love the light. 10 images is perfect. You've got really nice sharp edges around. I'm going to go ahead and render it.
Can I ask? Oh, you already rendered.
Go ahead, ask your question, Nancy.
When you hover over that, it comes up and it says like press F. Like if you hover over that, see, what does that mean? Where it says
Press
F9
F9
to
to
load.
load.
I don't know. Let's hit F9. Let's see what happens.
because I got that one time. I didn't bother with it. I just saved once it was done and moved on.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never used the F9 before. I do normally, I'll
Okay.
click and I can check for sharpness and you have your zoom at 100%. I've done that before and you can change the zoom down here too.
F9
Okay.
will bring up the image this particular image that is hovering over.
Well,
Oh,
it's
so
not
At that
doing
point.
it
It'll
here.
bring it
Oh,
up
at
in the
that point.
left-hand screen.
Oh, okay.
so if it's shot number 4 that you took and you're hovering over it in the composite, it'll show you shot number 4 on the other side.
Right.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
you normally just click on the image on the left side and you can see it changes.
Yep.
I've never done the
Okay.
F9. Yeah. Learn new stuff every
Huh.
day, don't we?
So Amy,
So,
the
yeah.
method A, B, and C, I
Mhm.
played and just tried different ones, but is there one preferred one to use or?
Yeah, and I'm going to review that again today. I did send you a handout, but hold on just a minute and I'll explain that. Generally for flowers and a lot of these things, A and B are going to be your best solutions. You can always try C. C, I have found works best like with ice or something really complicated with a bunch of
that's right.
intersecting lines.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm going to look at, here's A. So if you take a look at that right-hand side, I'm going to toggle over to B. And almost no difference. Where you do see a little bit of difference sometimes is the lighting. And just because of the way it builds the image. And if for some reason you have photos that are out of order, like for instance, the Olympus, if you choose the focus stacking, not bracketing, stacking, and shoot raw, Olympus does not shoot them in consecutive order like we do with bracketing. They kind of start a third of the way into the image and then come back out and go in, go out, and they do that for the 8 to 15 images. So with method B, it is generally you want to have those images in a consistent, consecutive manner. So that would make a difference too. But I have found for the most part, A and B can often be interchangeable with more simple subjects like some of our flowers and such that we see here. When you get into really complicated, then method C will sometimes work. So after toggling back and forth again, we talked about how you can save one. Right click, you can save them individually. You could also go to File and save all of them. It'll save both images. So you would have all of that to go for. I'm just going to cancel out because I already saved it. So it's in Lightroom. And then I'll come back to something else when it comes to retouching. And then here is that TIFF. And
That's
so,
nice, right?
yeah, nice image. Yeah, it looks like there, you might have had a higher ISO on it.
Might have to look. I don't remember what the ISO
Okay.
was, but it's since I shot it inside in like a small studio box with just room light, the ISO is probably pretty high.
Okay, yeah. Just because I can see a little bit more noise and such in it, but otherwise, you know, really nice simple background. You've got really nice crisp edges all over. So the 10 images again worked really well. So let's compare that one to your JPEG. And I'll actually put these side by side. Oh, whoops. Let's go that way. So JPEG on the right, the other one on the left. Looks about the only difference is a crop. So TIFF on the left, JPEG on the right.
Beautiful.
Really
Yeah,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
came out nice.
pretty. Love the detail.
yeah. And so although, and this is why I had said with Helicon as much as possible, if you could do the free download, those that have the in-camera stuff, you may not need to use Helicon all the time. So you might not need to pay for it. It also depends how much you're going to do macro, how much you're going to do stacking. So you have a few more weeks to figure that out. But those of you that have the in-camera options, those are fantastic options. Really well done, Carol.
I really like this.
So-
When you put your focus point, does the camera just go directly back, or does it sense that it needs to focus like over to the right or to the left? Does that make sense?
It should just keep going straight back in equal intervals.
So if
Because
I,
it doesn't really know what the subject
Right.
is. So
So
it's
if
going to do
I-
just based on plane of focus.
so if I'm choosing the focus point, I want to do it in a spot close to me, but that is straight back to the very center of the flower and not over here to the left, for example. Wouldn't go back all the way. Does that make sense?
Well, actually, you just want to pick whatever is closest to your
Closest to the
lens.
lens.
Okay,
Yes,
regardless.
closest to the
Okay.
lens. And then it'll just go consistently back in those planes of focus as far back as it can.
Okay,
And then if you shoot 10 and you realize, oh, this furthest petal
Right.
isn't in
Okay.
focus, you can restart the focus stack either from the beginning or like my Nikon, it ends and I can see, oh, this tip's not in focus. So I can just hit the menu and start again. It'll take 10 more. And I have 20
okay,
and I can use 15 of or something like that.
okay, thanks.
Will
You're
that
welcome.
will that mess up when you're making sure they're in consecutive order? To say the
No,
first was 1
because
to
as
30
long
and then
as
it goes
it-
1 to 10.
It ends towards the back and then you
Okay.
continue going from there. Now, the Olympus originally did that, but then one of their upgrades, they made it so once the stack is done, it brings the focus point back to that closest point. So if you didn't get everything in focus, I would always check that last image. If everything wasn't in focus, I just started over again and added 25 more,
Okay.
20 more, because I couldn't find that same spot again.
Okay, I'm a little confused on the focusing.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So in your first class, you showed an object and you had your camera pointed directly
Straight down.
Correct.
parallel,
Correct.
whatever. So
Yes.
in this particular image, or if you were using that flower, would you focus on the stamen or whatever that word is for the center? And then it's going to take pictures out, or you keep saying deep. So I guess I'm
I
confused.
mean deep. When I say deep, it's like depth of field. So it's
Field.
the furthest part. Yes.
Okay.
I would always so if these anthers are closest to the lens, I would start there. If this petal is closest to the lens, I would start there.
Okay.
I start with whatever is closest to the lens. So I will often move myself to the side view and actually see what is closest
Yeah.
to the lens. Because if I'm only looking through a viewfinder, it's hard to tell. And that's where that focus peaking, if you can use that. I know some cameras don't if you're in an auto mode, and we had some of that conversation last week. But if I can, I bring back the focus to as close as possible. And then as I approach my subject, I see where that closest point is.
Okay, so you start slightly out of focus
Yeah.
at the closest point to the lens.
Closest point to the lens, yes.
Okay.
And I will
And we're
say,
just-
sometimes if you're just looking through the viewfinder, it is hard to tell what is the closest point. So rotating that lens to see what comes into focus first and not, and or looking from the side view, which petal is closest? Where do I start? Those are big pointers that will help.
And you're just using spot focus as your focus point, right?
Yeah, what I will often do, I will use the spot focus to get it in the general area. And then with my lens, I can then override it. It's a manual / auto lens. So I'm using autofocus, but then when I switch it into manual by rotating the lens, I can back up the focus just a little bit, and then I can start the stack.
And you never go back to autofocus.
Well, technically the camera is in autofocus. The camera setting is autofocus, but the lens,
Correct.
although it's autofocus, if I rotate the lens, it kind of brings it back
Takes
to
it
manual.
out.
So as long as I don't hit the shutter button, it's not going to refocus on me.
Okay.
Trying that with my lens. I put it in manual when it was so close it had a hard time. And then I
Yeah.
switched it back to autofocus, and anyway, I have no clue if it
Okay.
really worked right or the way I intended.
But very nice images there, Carol. All right, now we got Nancy.
Now, this is Professor Nancy, the expert. It's my first focus stack.
Excellent, excellent.
Good job.
It's really
thank
pretty.
you.
Beautiful.
I like
I
how
had
they
a
do-
really hard time because what I did is I put on manual focus like you told us, and I got it. These I think were the things sticking up were the closest to me because they were
Okay.
coming right at me.
Yeah,
Did that, and then I started shooting, and I didn't get any difference. And I did again, I didn't get a difference. I turned my camera off, I kicked it, didn't do it. And then I go after I wrote you, and you just said, "Well, I'm very sorry. Send me something." And I go, "Okay." But so then at 1 o'clock in the morning, when I was still awake, figuring it out, I put mine back on autofocus and just used the back focus button, and then it
Okay.
worked because I think the camera has to be in autofocus
Yeah.
to talk to itself.
and
Right?
so that's where it gets confusing. There is a difference between the camera setting of autofocus versus the lens manual focus override. I guess I'll call it that. So my camera is in autofocus. My Nikon has to be in autofocus or the camera can't do focus stacking. But when the side of the lens, many lenses have the manual or autofocus switch, I'm not moving that switch. But this
From-
lens has the function, the lens is in
Dude, I had to
autofocus.
turn the autofocus off on my lens, and then I manually did it with the focus peaking. And when I shot it like that, it didn't work. So
Right,
I had to flip it back, the lens back to autofocus.
right.
And
Yes, it will need to be in autofocus, but many lenses, even though you're in autofocus, if it has like an M/A
yes,
together on the toggle switch, that means that you can manually override the autofocus. So you're not changing the toggle switch. I'm in autofocus on the camera and on the lens, and then I just rotate the lens slightly to tweak my focus. So I've used a manual override. And in that case, that's when my focus peaking pops on, and that's when
Okay.
I can then fine tune my focus. And then when I go to focus stacking, I can hit start or okay based on the
Okay.
camera, and it goes from there.
okay, so
Yeah.
I'll try that then.
Okay. But I love, you get some great detail down here. This one, stamen and anther, missing anther and stuff, that one seems a little soft, but a lot of the rest has some really nice detail, possibly a few more images, because if you really wanted down inside here to be sharper,
Hmm.
I can argue I'm not sure you want it, because I really like how these anthers pop out.
Okay.
And some of this is kind of soft, but because that's so deep set, if you were to look at the depth from the start of the lens to the depth down in here,
Mhm.
you might have needed to add 10 or 20 more images or something.
It was only 10.
Yeah.
Because
So
to
yeah,
me, the
lilies
back
are
of the
pretty
flower.
Hey, Nancy,
pretty deep flower, so that'd be a hard one to get.
Okay.
I know we're not supposed to talk about composition, but I really like what you did here with the little unopened bloom in the background and the background color and everything. I think that really adds a lot to this. Nice job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah.
I just noticed that. Thank you for pointing it out.
It looks good.
So if
Yeah.
I would have shot with say 20 or 30 shots, then the back
Uh-huh.
of the top petal that's the furthest back, that would be sharper also.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And the wind was blowing, so I was doing my
Oh,
darn
wow.
just a
Yeah.
breeze.
Wow.
Good job.
Very nice.
Thank you.
And this one, I know Nancy had asked me about focus because she was focusing on this spot right here.
Yep, it was the closest.
Yeah. However, because this is so out of focus, either A, wind might have caught you if it was windy, or B, this could be where the camera, I don't know, depending on how much you were zoomed in, to me, it looks like the center ended up getting focused because this is
Mhm.
pretty out of focus.
Right.
And then you do have some other areas that are a little bit sharper, especially some of the outer petals. So if it were me, I would have probably, gone back through and maybe tried one more time. Maybe if you're using your little focus dot,
Yes.
sometimes it's like half on, half off.
Yep, it was half on, half off.
And you don't know which the camera is really getting. And that's the advantage. If you can manually override the lens, then you
Okay.
can just kind of, oh, wait, I need this to be in focus. And that would
Okay.
make the difference. Because you have sharpness in the image. It's just not in the exact spot that you want it.
Right. And then should I have shot with like 30 shots or something also to get it more of it? Because there's so many petals on this one.
Yeah, you definitely could have, because it looks like the focus starts a little bit more in the center here. So you're missing a lot of the stuff that's closer. So yeah, probably 30 shots would have been a lot closer.
I put that in so everybody else could learn.
Yes, thank you for teaching us
You're
all this.
welcome.
Considerate of you, Nancy, very considerate.
Appreciate any help I can get,
Yeah,
Nancy.
always thinking of everybody. I
You
got
do
so
that next time too?
Yeah. I got so frustrated, I just got a rock out and did it and thought, this has got to work. So that's just, I put it on the cement and just went straight down and did it.
And I think it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it turned out nicely.
Didn't move. The wind didn't affect it.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
And that was 10 shots.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
And again, I'll reiterate, this week was all about kind of getting the menu figured out, getting the subject figured out, that kind of stuff. So I think we made some progress, made some great progress. This week hopefully won't be near as frustrating. And for those that I know Pat had some struggles too with Helicon, it was not being friendly to her as well. But certainly the Olympus using the in-camera focus stacking, you can certainly work through that as well, and then you'd end up with the JPEG. But if we can get the Helicon going, you could then use those RAWs as well. So I'll work with Pat to get her images recovered, since we had some struggles there. But overall, I think you guys did a great job. Very pleased, very pleased. So let's just talk for a moment, and then I'll demo in Helicon. So when it comes to Helicon, and I make no money off this, I just wanted to show what the different options are here with Helicon. And so they have the light, and like I said a moment ago, if you don't know you're going to shoot a lot of focus stacking, don't buy it. Don't buy it now. Just wait, give it some time. You know, you at least have the rest of the 30-day free trial, and then you can just really decide if it's something you want. But I use the Pro lifetime, so I don't get the premium. A lot of these options I don't use, I don't find necessary. I do use the Pro, and part of that is because of the teaching I do. Technically, you can connect your computer and Helicon to your camera and do stuff, and we have done that when we used to do some different workshops. But otherwise, even the light works great, except some of the retouching tools are not in light. So that is the one difference. But if you have really simple stacks, that would be an option for you. Helicon does offer tutorials on their website and stuff too, that kind of goes through things as well. But I just wanted you to know I only use the Pro. I do not need the premium. So I wanted to review really quick in Helicon. This is my slide to remember to say what I was going to say. It looks like several of you did change that little number icon, so you know how many photos you processed in Helicon. So I'll just point that out again really quick for those who might have forgotten to do that. And then we're going to get into some retouching here real quick. So I am going to start with, these are all JPEGs. They were just shot, well, I just exported them as JPEGs for demonstration purposes. So this was a marigold at a local nursery many years ago, and the wind was blowing. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with my TIFFs here, and I should have time for DNG in a minute. I'm just going to stick with method A, go ahead and render it. Now, when I look at my finished subject, especially over on the left, do you see that ghosting there of that leaf?
Yep.
Yeah. So the retouching mode here in Helicon, which is what Ken was referring to, makes it really easy to fix. So I'm going to go into retouching. And then what you want to do is, on the left is one of the original images, and on the right is your composite. So I want to find that image that has the really sharp leaf on the right. So I'm going to come down to the bottom of the stack. Oh, whoops. Yeah, not that one. So this one right here, I can see it's sharp down low. And then when I hover my mouse, when I'm in retouching mode, when I hover my mouse over on the right-hand side, it's showing on that left image what it would look like to duplicate. So as you see, as I hover back and forth, it's kind of cleaning up the image. It's not doing it permanently yet. It's just giving me a visual what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to hold down my mouse and I'm going to clean that up right there. So in my finished version, it's now cleaned up that one little area.
What did you do there again? I was
You know
writing.
what? Let me see. I might be able to. Oh yeah, here we go. Let me do the zoom. Oops. Oh. A second. Just trying to manage the zoom here. Why will my slider not slide right?
But there was ghosting there. I
Not
saw
letting me
that
zoom
from.
in. Yeah, there was ghosting. So we'll try one more area. Let me go back to rendering just so we can zoom on it.
Okay, there, yeah,
Okay, here we go. So here's the
ghosting.
ghosting, the problem. So then if I come down to one of the original images on the left, this side doesn't have that ghosting because this is the original slice that was clean. Because when I was focus stacking, it was taking multiple images together, the sharper areas. So I just want to use this one image. So I'm going to go back to retouching. Oops, find that same sliver again. Here we go. So in the retouching menu, on the left is one slice, on the right is my finished product. And if I hover over, actually, I already kind of did it because I went back to from rendering to retouching.
So you don't click it or anything, you just hover over it under retouching?
No, when you hover over it, you can see what it's going to do. And then you use your mouse and you click and kind of paint it on. It will duplicate. Basically, it's a cloning tool. It will clone
Okay.
from the left screen to the right. So let me get one. There's a little bit more spot up above it. Maybe it's the bottom image. No, that's not. Let me do something that's easier to see. So let's say, so right now the stem of this marigold is pretty sharp. But let's say I want it, and actually let's do this left side marigold stem with all the leaves. It's pretty sharp. I don't want it to be that sharp. I want it to be less in focus. So I'm going to start at one of my top slices and see if I can find a better option. So like on this left side, look how out of focus this is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in retouching. I come over to my finished image. I can make my brush a little bigger. And when I hover over, I see what it's going to blur. And then I just click with the mouse. And now I've made a lot of it out of focus.
And is it cumulative if you keep doing it and clicking with the mouse? Does it?
Yes, it will keep building as long as you're in the retouching mode. It will keep building onto your final image. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Let's see. Sharp. I can find a little bit more that's less sharp. Sharp, that's sharp. Yeah, I think I got the majority that was less sharp with just my 5 images. And so I can do the same in this area here. If I decided this bud it's too distracting, it's too sharp, I find the single slice image on the left that I want to clone over into my finished version, and then I can click and drag.
And you can use
out of focus.
You can use any of the images in your stack, Amy?
Any of the slices in your stack, yes.
Okay.
So that's where, especially like Ken had referred to, he had a little bit of ghosting. He found the one that had the sharp edge. Like I tried to indicate with this one here, it's just so close to the edge, it's hard to see. And he was able to go in and use this cloning feature to clean up the edge of his flower. And then on another one, he talked about the background. He liked the out of focus background of one slice. And so he was able to, like I did with the foreground here, get it less in focus.
So let me ask, so on this one, you go to the one on the left, and do you have to click on that like you would a normal cloning tool and then come over and hover over on the right side to see what it looks like and then click it there if that's where you want it?
Great question. No, that's what makes this so easy. You just find the original image on the left, and as long as you are in retouching,
Oh,
it
it'll do it.
automatically, when
Got
I
it.
ping my mouse to the right picture,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
showing me where it's cloning from. I
Got
don't
it.
have to make a selection. It
okay.
automatically is cloning from that same exact spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you pull from the same picture, like you wanted to retouch the one on the right, but you wanted to use something from that to retouch? Can you do it in the same picture?
No, then you would need to go into either Photoshop or Lightroom. So the question is, like, if this petal here on the right, I wanted it somehow over here or whatever, I can't use because you can see my stealing far left circle. I have no control of where that is. It's always at the same exact spot of the image on the left. So unless you brought in a finished TIFF, but that starts getting a little bit more complicated. So let's wait a week on that.
Is
Yeah.
your finished TIFF always going to stay on the right for you?
Yes, your finished stack is always going to be on the right.
So the one down in the corner that you're saving is the one on the right.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And then just to remind everyone, when it comes to the saving, if you didn't change your count on your file things, it's under edit preferences. And this is the one I recommended. You just add count to it. So just by the drop down here, add count. And then when you save your file, it's going to include how many images you used for the stack.
May
And
I?
so in this case, it was 5. I just find that to be really helpful.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Because when I went there and I went to edit, and then I didn't have preference was not there. And I just bought the lifetime light one, and it's not there. Do I need
maybe
to
that's not
update or
an,
something? So
I
what
wonder
I
if that's
did
not an
is I just looked
option.
what it did. So I just went Command Option and P, and it did it for me.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect.
And
I
then
think
will
I saw
that-
that too. Yeah.
did you find? Yeah. And then
Okay.
once you fix that, like once we do our pictures, then they disappear out of there. But will that count be there from now on as my preferred default, or do I have to put that in every single time?
If you can get it into there, it should be in there every single
Okay.
time. Yeah, I've not had to change mine again. Mine stays in it.
And you
So-
found that, Jerry, you didn't have the preference either.
Yeah, I couldn't find it either. I got kind
Yeah.
of confused about that. So I
Okay.
think that's right, Nancy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just in a different, the other one. Okay. So I'm going to exit here. We are at 10:02. I just have a couple last things here to point out and talk about another assignment.
Okay.
So first, sometimes you don't need 10 images. This was actually with a long lens, so I wasn't using macro. Well, actually, okay, it was a macro lens, but I was further away. So I just shot 2 images, one of the top of the mushroom, one of the stem, and I threw them together.
So you manually did that. You didn't put it in.
Well, no, I used Helicon.
No, but I mean when you shot it.
Oh, focused, yes. When I focused, I just focused on 2 separate spots. Yes.
Okay.
So you didn't like put 2 and the interval, you just took 2 separate shots.
I just took 2
Got
separate
it.
shots. So sometimes you don't always have to use the full focus stacking mode. I mean, obviously this is what the class is about, is to utilize that, but I just want to show you sometimes focus stacking can be simple depending on your subject too.
So you can use Helicon lots of different ways. Okay.
Yes,
I like
yes.
it.
And so here's another example. I threw this one in just because of Jerry's talk about landscapes. So this was for that photo contest I did last fall. So I shot one more close, one a little bit further back. And I think both of them were at like f/16, but because I was pretty close to the subject, and then I just threw the 2 of them into Helicon, and there's my final image.
So when you do landscaping, do you tend to do separate images so you can pick what's in focus, or do you sometimes do the shoot the 30? You know what I mean?
Honestly, I don't do a lot of focus stacking with landscape unless it's simple like this. I tend to just stop down the lens at f/16, maybe f/18 would be the most, and then I'm working that hyperfocal distance
Okay.
and trying to get what's acceptably sharp. But, this would be considered acceptably sharp, but it's not near as sharp foreground as this left image. So when it came to what was in this image, stacking was a better option than using
Okay.
hyperfocal distance. So
here's a question. When would
Yep.
you use this as compared to HDR in your camera with some bracketing of 3 images, like 2 over and 2 under? Is that just for more of a high contrast situation? I'm trying to
the HDR is more for, high contrast when it's an exposure problem. These images, because it was mostly cloudy, it wasn't an exposure problem, so I didn't really need to look at the exposure and HDR in that regard.
Okay.
It was more about focus, getting it as much in focus.
Okay, just trying to learn when would you use which? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And this was a slide in case my internet didn't work. But back to Pat's questions and that handout I sent to you. So like I had said, Method A is really good for some short stacks. So your 10 stacks, even 20, even 30, I've not had a problem with it. It really does preserve the contrast and color a lot more. When you get into Method B, it, as you can see here, it has the sharpest pixel information, but you must use that order of images. So like I said, the Olympus, if you're shooting focus stacking in RAW, it's not going to be a consecutive order images. So B would not, very possibly not turn out as well. But it does really good job with textures and smooth surfaces. As I said, I don't see a huge difference between the two of these on most subjects. And then the last one is if you have something really complex with the intersecting objects, really long, big stacks, 150, 200, something like that. And it does sometimes will increase some contrast and glare. So since Ken has more experience than some of the others, Ken, do you have a go-to method that you use in Helicon?
I usually use B, but I will try A and C just to see which works better. But usually use B and then sometimes change the radius.
Radius, okay.
Yeah.
And I was going to introduce that next week because right now let's just get comfortable with all the stacking stuff. But yeah, you can change the radius too. All right, so for next week, we're going to do similar again. This time, if you shot indoors, if you're into a challenge, try to do it outdoors, try it on location, just so you can see how that can be a little bit more complex. If you're not up for that challenge, then do something indoors again. And I said nature, but again, it doesn't have to be macro. So I know at least Jerry had talked about landscapes. If you wanted to try to do focus stacking with landscapes, you could. Otherwise, find some kind of nice little subject and do again 2 separate stacks. Now you can start thinking a little bit more about that composition and lighting. Lighting we talked about quite a bit today. Still remember that you have that need to crop. And now that you know what to look for in Helicon, if there's some ghosting, you can try that retouching feature as well. And then again, submit your images. I don't know why some people had to ask for permission to get into that. I give Google the info, but everyone should be set to upload into Google Drive. But of course, if there's a problem, always email me the images too.
I had a problem. It was asking me to get permission and everything. So
yeah, if you say go ahead and send permission, I'll accept it. And I normally do it within a minute or two. So
okay.
I was just going to say, and I know Nancy had asked about this, but just in case someone else didn't. When it comes to when you export in Lightroom, if you resize that TIFF or DNG at the end as long edge 2000 pixels, then it comes in good enough. I can zoom in on it, but it's not, you know, a 25 meg file that will take forever to upload and such. So since we kind of ran out of time last week for that.
Do you want 300 resolution? I just turned mine to 72 since we were just on the
Actually,
computer.
72 is fine because that's what the camera captures it in.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, the most important is the long edge and the 2000 pixels.
What quality do you send it?
I always send it, I put it at high.
So like at 100 still?
Yeah, at 100.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You can kind of barely see that up here, but yeah, that's like
Yeah,
100.
okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, will Ken be teaching next week?
I might have to have him, huh?
Yeah, good job, kid. Okay, back to the
And,
drawing board.
Did
I'll just see if
everybody
I can
turn
get
in
this-
pictures this week? I think somebody's,
Yeah.
did we do
Yeah,
6 people?
yeah, Pat didn't, so I'm gonna chat with her and we'll get that figured out. There was, Helicon
Okay.
wasn't being nice and then Google wasn't being nice, so.
I
we'll
feel
try to
your
get-
pain, Pat. I feel your pain.
I had major problems with Helicon. I had major problems with Google not liking me and
Yeah.
rejecting me. And
I
a few other minor problems, yes.
Yeah.
I find that what I tried then was to take a shot of tequila. And by that, I mean with the camera. And then I drank it.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
a few shots I could have used.
All right, so if there's any questions, actually, Pat, if you want to stay on, maybe we can figure out when we can chat again. But otherwise, if you don't have any other questions, I will see you all next week.
All right. Thank
See you
you.
next week.
Bye, thank
Okay,
you.
Great
Bye.
job, everyone.
Yep. I was traveling too, so I'm surprised I'm still here. So that's great.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay, take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, let me just stop the recording here. Where is it? There it is. Okay.